Hi there, everybody. How are you doing? I'm hearing thunder, so hopefully that means I won't get an electrical shortage or something and have this thing stop in the middle of it, but we'll see what happens. Um, Today I've got a quote from James Clear, who is pretty well known for essentially a book he wrote that called Atomic Habits, and basically meaning break things down into little pieces so you can keep getting to go, and this habit stacking, build habits on each other. And I periodically, I won't necessarily say I mention his name every once in a while, but I do talk a lot about some of his concepts. But today I've specifically got a quote from him. Some things work and some don't. There's almost always another way to get where you want to go. Don't keep trying to open a locked door. I think that's fairly obvious when you hear or somebody says that comment and you say, of course not. And I think it's also fairly obvious when you see other people try to do it. But I suspect this becomes much more difficult when we're actually in the process of trying to do something and we don't realize that what we're doing is continuing to try to open the locked door. There are things, I mean, you've heard jokes, I guess, about people who drop their keys and they're looking under the light and they say, where are they? It's over there. Because, it says, well, why are you looking here? Because the light's better. It's expressing pretty much the same concept. When we run into a situation, we start looking for things that are going to be perhaps easier or have better light, so to speak. And we're not looking at the issues that need to be looked at or where the issues need to be looked at. So you keep trying to do something. You might say, let's just say you keep yelling at your kids because they're not doing something. Okay. Even if that doesn't fit your scenario, you understand the concept. Because there are people who probably you've heard complain. Maybe it was you that this happened when you were a teenager. But a lot of times people will just continue to say nag or yell at the teenagers or do something else like that. And then they just complain about the fact that nothing gets done and they can't change anything. So the question I have is, why do you keep essentially trying to open a locked door? Because if you know that it's not working and if you've nagged and they don't do it, then why do you continue to do it? Does this start making sense? Maybe perhaps could be. If you think in terms of how many times you've had some kind of an issue and you're saying, well, nobody else does it or they don't change or anything else like that, could it possibly be that you too are not changing because you're doing exactly the same thing over and over and over again, which, as most of you have probably heard, is the definition of insanity. In other words, you keep doing the same thing over and over and never change anything, but expect something to change. So, in its sense, that's where clear is coming. At least that's where I think clear is coming from. Is the idea that we want to accomplish something, or we say we want to accomplish something, and we keep doing the same things over and over, and then we can't figure out why nothing changes. This is most obvious, I think, with things like weight loss, because people say, I want to lose weight, but they don't. Now, this reminds me of a story. Well, it's not a story. It actually happened once many years ago when I was teaching in a traditional classroom. One of my students made the comment somewhere during class, and at some point, I heard the student say anyway, that she wished she could lose some weight. And so I made the suggestion. I said, why don't you just park your car at the other end of the parking lot, the far end of the parking lot, and just walk here? That gets you some extra exercise. And over the course of a couple of, weeks or so, will start to make a difference. And she looked at me like I had just sort of like attacked her or something, or said something absolutely horrible. And she says, you've got to be kidding me. Her goal is what she wanted was for somebody to be taking her to class and dropping her off at the front door. So all she had to do was go for that, 50 feet or whatever, to get into the front door of the building so she could go to class. I knew at that moment that her future was probably going to be, heavy, because she was looking at the option of getting some exercise, which would counteract the eating, as looking at something that she definitely didn't want to do. She was definitely knocking on a locked door. Not only was she locking on a locked door, she was basically kind of like keeping it locked herself. And it seems obvious to you when I say it like that, and you can possibly laugh, but I'd be willing to bet. In fact, I know I do things like this all the time. I'm not aware of it at the moment that I'm doing it, but hopefully sooner or later I get most of these caught and manage to make some changes. These are those things in which, if you've ever made the statement, like, I keep doing this and over and over and over, and I keep getting up in the same place, or you get the feeling that, gee, I've been here before, isn't anything ever going to change or something along that line? It's probably because you're going through or attempting to go through that locked door by opening the door or trying to open the door and it doesn't work, and so you just keep trying to open the door. To use another phrase of, if something, what they say is, if you can't find the door, go look for a window. So this, in a sense, that's what it would apply here. If you're trying to go through and get into a room and the door is locked, don't keep trying to open the locked door. Go see if you can find a window. Go see if you can find another wall or something like that, that you can find a break into that so that you could get into the other room. Because you might be surprised that in most buildings, they're not actually built this way. Most of them, I do remember one. Well, okay, let me go back. A long time ago, I was in Panmunjom. That's at the DMZ, the border between North and South Korea. On the American side, Americans do what Americans do, and they had a little gift shop that they could sell souvenirs and things like that. So you could go in and get a little coin for Panmunjom or whatever it was you're doing. Typical American, they try and make a buck out of it. What I noticed, and I still remember to this day, is on the other side, once the North Koreans had seen that we were building something on this side, they built the facade of a building on the other side. Excuse me. Literally, they built if you will, the front wall, except I hesitate to say the front wall because there was nothing there. All it was is one wall with a door and a couple of windows. But if you walked out far enough, you could take a look at the side angle and you could see there was no building there. All it was the front wall. Strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, one of the strangest things I guess I could ever see in my life, because I thought it was so funny that they thought, it's like, don't you realize that we can see that there's only a wall over there? So what's the point of what you're doing? So that they were apparently trying to impress or build something greater than what we build. We just had a little kiosk that might have been maybe, I don't remember, it's been years since I've been there, maybe 20 by 20 feet. And so they went through and built a long, 2-story brick wall. They're doing something to attempt to probably look bigger and better than what the American side had, but it wasn't accomplish anything. So in a sense, if you will, they were trying to knock on the door off. All they could do, or people had to do, is just sort of like go over to the edge of the building and go around. So even though that analogy is not what you're going to typically see in most places, in the States or any place else for that matter, a lot of us, if you pound on the door, you can't get through it. So instead of going down the side and saying, okay, is there a window open, or maybe there's no sides to this and I can just slide around it, we just keep trying to knock on the door. So I'm going to suggest that you listen this week, or you pay attention this week to those times when you find yourself saying, I keep getting into the same position. Why can't anything change? Stop and take a look and say, okay, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And is there something else you could be doing instead? Because it's possible that if you make some slight changes, we go back to the analogy with the teenager taking out the garbage or whatever. Maybe if the parents start doing something else instead of nag, they might be more successful. But as long as they keep nagging, it's nothing going to change because they keep doing the same thing over and over again and not getting the same response. I hope this makes sense. If you know anybody that could also benefit from it, share it, please. I'd appreciate that. And let me know what you think about it, if that made sense, or if there was some additions or thoughts that you would like to say about it. I would really appreciate it. Okay, you guys have a good day, and we'll see you later.